Today I'm ranking all planets in Astroneer. I've got a tier list set up and all 8 planets down here. And yes, I also included the moons and the DLC planet. So let's start with Silva. You probably know this, but Silva is the starting planet. If you play a regular game, this is where you will start. And for the longest time ever, we couldn't start on any other planet except for Silva. Now we have the custom game, so we can start on another one. But Silva still remains the normal starting planet. Because of that, it's also the easiest of all the planets. You will find all the basic resources here, the things you need to get started, but for anything more advanced, you will have to go to another planet. That's the game's way of making you want to explore more, get a shuttle and go to other planets as well. So that's why you won't find any really cool stuff on Silva, but you will find normal stuff. It's also a pretty big planet. I don't know if it's the biggest one, but it's really big compared to some of the others, obviously. As for notable resources, you'll find sphelerite in the caves and malachite in the mountains. Of course, you will find a ton of other resources, but these are the most notable ones. And for power, you'll get medium solar and medium wind power. So this is a pretty basic planet, everything's on medium, and difficulty is easy. This is also where you figure out the mechanics of Astroneer, and this is also where most people figure out if they like the game or not. You also find Sylvie on here, which is a really nice snail that gives you light. But other than that, it's a pretty basic planet, so I'll just put it in pretty good. I like to start these lists with putting something in the middle, so we have a baseline for all the others. Now let's move on to Desolo. Desolo is Silva's moon. Basically, Silva is trying to emulate the Earth, and Desolo is the moon. It's obviously much smaller. I think it is the smallest planet in all of Astroneer. There is another moon, which we'll get to later, but that's bigger than this. Difficulty is still easy, so you won't find any difficulty spikes here. However, something has changed. You have high solar power and low wind power, so you will better use some solar panels on here. For notable resources, you'll find wolframite in the caves and sphelerite in the mountains. So this is really good because the wolframite is sort of an advanced resource, and here you can find it pretty easy in the caves. You don't have to go far from your starting base on Silva, and it's also pretty easy to go through this planet. You're probably familiar with the meme as well. Everybody's blowing up Desolo. It's a thing. You put a ton of dynamite on it and you can blow up the whole planet because it's just so small. It does look pretty nice. You'll also get Usagi, the snail that shows you points of interest, and you'll need it because on Desolo you can find chess pieces. The chess pieces are called stone figurines, and you can find all of them and actually make your own chessboard. You do need 2 colors for a chessboard, so you will find the Jasper variety on Desolo, and then the Lapis one on Novus, which we'll talk about in a bit. You can find pawns, knights, rooks, bishops, queens and kings. You can have multiple chessboards if you want to, but these are hidden, like some sort of Easter egg to get them all, and you can definitely use Usagi to help you find those. I actually have a multiplayer video on this exact thing. You can go watch it if you want, it's really cool. Desolo also has the Apollo Lunar module, which is another Easter egg. So there's a ton of lore and hidden things to do on Desolo. You can also blow it up, which is pretty cool, so I'm gonna put this in the awesome category. I know resource-wise and story-wise it's not better than Silva, but in terms of what you can actually do on it and how much you enjoy it, Desolo is definitely one for the awesome tier. The next one will be Calidor. This is a desert planet. Obviously it has very high solar power and low wind. Difficulty is medium, so we are starting to ramp it up here. You will find malachite in the caves and wolframite on the mountains. You can also get hydrogen and sulfur from this planet. You can get hydrogen from Silva as well. Desolo doesn't have an atmosphere, so no gas is there. But the sulfur is really important because the only other place you can get it is on Aethrox, which is really hard. We'll talk about that. So this is the best way to get sulfur early, and they're gonna use this for dynamite, probably to blow up Desolo, but also to open some exo caches and progress the story with exo chips. So in terms of resources, the sulfur is the most important thing you will find on Calidor. Other than that, there are some pretty cool biomes, but they all look kind of same-ish. It's a desert planet after all, so that's what they are going for. But there are some story beats happening here as well. It's not the main story, but there's a specific side quest line that you can go in, and you will end up on Calidor as well, completing some pretty interesting stuff. For that, I'll throw it in the meh category. You do get the Stilgar snail, which gives you oxygen, so that's pretty good. But if you start traversing the whole planet, it's not really that great. All the biomes look kind of the same, so yeah, it goes into the meh category. Next up, we've got Vesania, and this is a planet I really enjoy. It's also medium difficulty, but this is much harder to traverse, so if you want to get from point A to point B, it's gonna be pretty hard on this planet. But that's why you've got a side quest where you can unlock the VTOL and fly around, and that's a cool thing when you first get that. You've got some guesses, but all of them can also be found on other planets, so that's not really that interesting. But you will find lithium in the caves and titanite in the mountains. And these are resources that you haven't come across so far on the other planets that you've been to, if you took them in order. So Vesania is a really important stop along your journey to get some more advanced resources and really step up your game. It has low sun power but high wind power, so you're gonna be just good with some wind turbines. Another thing, you get the best snail of them all from Vesania. You get Princess. She is the cutest snail, and if you don't agree, you're probably wrong. It definitely is the most helpful snail, especially if you're playing in some more hardcore modes, because it prevents all type of damage. So you get no fall damage, no damage from any flora that's trying to attack you, nothing at all. You can still suffocate if you don't have enough oxygen, but other than that, you are safe to do whatever you want. So Princess is overpowered, and she's also really cute. For that, Vesania goes into the awesome category, and don't make any mistakes, Vesania is cooler than the Solo, but it's not the best planet ever, and we'll get to that in a second. Now let's talk about Novus. Novus is Vesania's moon, so it's pretty small. The difficulty is medium. It basically has the same challenges as on Vesania, but with a little variation. It has methane, which is pretty good, you'll want that, and it also has hematite in the caves and lithium in the mountains. These are not anything special. However, it has high sun power and high wind power, so you will get a ton of power anywhere you go. That makes this a perfect place to build a base, because you're not gonna have any problem with power, and it has some beautiful craters with a ton of fractal roses, which also play into the story, at least into the awakening missions. But anyway, Novus is pretty cool. I would definitely build a base there, but I would still only put it in the pretty good category. Now let's move over to Glacio. Glacio is also a pretty big planet. Difficulty is hard. So when you get here, you're gonna get some new challenges. You're gonna have to go through stuff that you haven't been before up to this point, but you will also be rewarded for it. You've got titanite in the caves and hematite in the mountains. You'll basically find hematite all over the surface. It's so easy to get it. And another thing, you don't have to go to these planets in order, so you can skip a couple and go to Glacio earlier. Yes, it is harder, but you will get a ton of bites. It's pretty easy to get all the bites you need from going to Glacio pretty early, and that's a strategy most people use. You're gonna get very low sun power, but very high wind power. So don't even bother with solar panels on Glacio, just use wind and maybe generators. I really love this planet. It has wide open spaces where you can build a huge base. I think I've built most of my bases on Glacio. It's also the only planet that makes the perfect spot for Christmas, and we always have a Christmas event in Astroneer every year, so everybody just collectively travels to Glacio at that time of the year, which makes this planet liked by almost every Astroneer. For that, you know it, this is gonna be my best planet ever, and I'm pretty sure nothing can beat it. Or can it? Let's move over to the next one, which is Aatrox. Aatrox is best known for being the only planet with the very hard difficulty. All of the planet is irradiated, you can barely see, everything's green and hazy, sun power is low, wind power is low, so you're gonna have trouble getting power. But there's one thing, it's the only planet where you will find helium. And you will need helium, so that makes it infuriating that you have to come here every time you need helium. That being said, I did a whole Astroneer playthrough where I just started on Aatrox with no shelter, no oxygen, nothing, and I loved it. I love this planet, it's actually pretty nice. It's not nice to live on it. If I had to choose a planet to live on, it would definitely be Glacio and not Aatrox. It also doesn't look that good. It looks kinda good at night when all the green stuff glows up, but other than that, I wouldn't really use it for a lot of thumbnails, if you get what I mean. And it also doesn't have any notable resources. As much as I would love to put this higher, I'll have to give it a meh, and some people are gonna get angry at this, I know. I had a joke running for quite a while, where I used to say Aatrox is the best planet ever, and a lot of people got mad at me, and a lot of people will get mad at me for not continuing the joke, but hey, it is what it is. Aatrox is really cool, and I might still say from time to time that it is the best planet ever, but if we're really honest with ourselves, it's not that good. It's not that good. It's hard, and all you get is helium, so yeah. You do get Enoki, which makes you jump higher and run faster, but that's about it. So Aatrox will stay in the mech category with Calidor. We've got one more planet, and this is Aeolus, the planet from the DLC. If you haven't played the DLC, I suggest you watch my playlist on it. I've got the whole story in there and it's awesome. This is the only planet that has a large size. It's by far the biggest one of them all, and it's the only one to have a varies in difficulty. There are easy sections, there are hard sections, there are very hard sections, and all of it has a central theme running through it, which is glitches. All of it is glitchy, it has some special storms, and all of the story of the DLC unfolds on this planet. The villain's lair is here, you're gonna get a base here, you're gonna go to all of the storms, you're gonna find different biomes, and you're gonna defeat the villain in the end, all on this planet. It has a whole story just for it, and it has a ton of biomes that honestly look way better than any of the other planets. It has medium to low sun power and medium wind power, so you might struggle a bit with power on this, but you might just use generators and tappers anyway. You will find all the resources that you need on here, and this planet has something else going for it. All of the gases are on here. You can just place an atmospheric condenser wherever you want, and you will have all of the gases at maximum concentration, so you will also get them faster and easier. Because of all the cool stuff that's on this planet and all the story from the DLC, which is a really good story, I suggest you watch it again. This has to go in the best planet ever category. I don't know if it's better than Glacio or not. After all, you have to put the entire story of the DLC and how it unfolds on Aeolus versus the Christmas vibes during the Christmas event on Glacio. I don't know how you would compare those two, so I will just leave them in the same category of best planet ever. These were all the planets in Astroneer so far. I do hope we get some extra ones, maybe some future DLC. I'm all for that, but make sure to subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and you can also go watch this video on screen right now. I'll see you there. Cheers, Astroneers!